Hey guys, it's just a regular guy here, the Dragon Lady's husband, and I'm gonna make a video for my the wife's channel. So about a week or a week and a half ago, the Banish deck that my wife built for me got showcased on Moist Critical's channel, and he kept raving about, you know, how fun the deck was and the multiple win conditions that it had. So the thing is regarding that Banish deck that she made for me, the deck itself hasn't really changed, and I'll provide a link to the actual deck profile in the description section of the video, because the only real change I made to that deck, since it is my favorite deck to play, is since Pot of Desires is now down to one, I had to remove one Pot of Desires and I replace it with Harpy's Feather Duster, because I think this format is going to be a very control heavy format, especially with skill drain to 3. So my wife has gotten a lot of requests for an updated deck profile, and I don't think a deck profile is really worth it just because the deck hasn't changed with regards to the build that we've done up for it. But I thought a good idea to talk about for this video is the side deck for this deck and the options that you should look at, especially, you know, if you put this deck up against the meta. So I wanted to talk about many of the side deck options, you know, you could add to this deck or possibly remove or build it in such a way that, you know, that you'll actually enjoy. So anyway, take these cards with a grain of salt, but if you want to try the Inferno Tempest Banish deck and add these cards to it or make it all your own, I certainly hope it works out for you. So let's get started. So one great side deck option is obviously 2 Lightning Storm, or not 2, you know, you can play 3 or however many. Basically, Lightning Storm, it's good removal, you know, against the back row, and it can destroy your opponent's attack position monsters as long as they don't have any Omni Negates or anything along those lines. So it's a great card, especially if you're forced to go second. Unfortunately, it's only had 2 printings as far as I know, so they might be a little hard to come by. One card I think should be in everybody's side deck, Dimensional Barrier. Incredibly important, especially in this format right now, especially with Sword Soul running rampant. Basically, the card says, declare 1 monster card type, Ritual Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Pendulum, and for the rest of the turn, neither player can special summon monsters of the declared type, and also negate the effects of monsters of that type that are on the field, and you can only activate 1 of them per turn. I think this is a necessary side deck card, because, you know, with Sword Soul and all the synchro spam, and obviously, you know, we got the branded structure decks coming out pretty soon, so they're going to be spamming a lot of really powerful fusion monsters. So this is a guaranteed card that should be in everybody's side deck, and it can really stop your opponent dead in their tracks the moment you know what they're playing. The cards also should be relatively easy to get. It's had a lot of reprintings as well. Now, if Flunders are really pissing you off, much like they do to me, I found the perfect card to go up against Flunders to kind of stop them in their tracks is Mask of Restrict. An old card, but surprisingly useful, because basically the card specifically says neither player can tribute summon. Now this can actually work against you as well, because the fact that you can't tribute summon means you can't use your Kaijus or your Lava Golem in the Infernal Tempest Banish build. But if you are going against Flunders, this card shuts Flunders down, because they can't tribute summon. So all they can do is just get their little birds out, and that's it. And it's a great card if you're going against Flunders. But unless, you know, you're playing against a lot of Flunder decks, I can't really know of any other decks that this would be good against, except Monarchs. But, you know, you don't really see a lot of Monarch decks these days. Okay, some other cards you can add to the Inferno Tempest Banish build that I've used, but it's currently not in this build right now. But if you want to add more stopping power and some more zero attackers, Swift Scarecrow. Basically, when your opponent monster declares a direct attack, you can discard this card, negate the attack, and then end the battle phase, and it's a quick effect. So basically, it's a great way to just protect your life points, and if they have a 3000 beater on the field, just normal summon it, slam into it for the Infernal Tempest. And a great combination with Swift Scarecrow is if you negate the opponent's attack and it's the end of the battle phase, if you got an evenly matched in hand, then you can activate evenly matched and destroy their board as long as they don't have anything to stop it. Another great side deck option, more useful when you play in real life. I did have this in the early builds of the deck that she built for me, but it's Soul Absorption. And Soul Absorption is pretty simple. If a card is banished, gain 500 points for each. So this applies to both you and your opponent if they banish cards. So if they activate a Pot of Desires, that's 5,000 life points for you. If you activate a Pot of Desires, that's 5,000 life points for you. So much better to use it, you know, when you're playing in real life, especially if you're under a timer and you don't have any other defense and you get your Inferno Tempest play. And it's like my wife often says, you know, she actually gained as many as 60 to 80,000 life points just on a couple of Soul Absorptions, just activating the Inferno Tempest. So a great side deck card if you want to go for that option. Personally, next card, guys, one of the most underrated cards I think there is. I'm surprised more decks don't use it. I love this card, especially since so many decks heavily rely on the extra deck, and that is Banquet of Millions. A relatively newer card that got released in Phantom Rage, and basically what the card states is banish any number of cards from your extra deck face down, and then banish the same number of random face down cards from your opponent's extra deck face up until the end phase, and you can only activate one Banquet of Millions per turn. Guys, this is a great going first card. If personally, the way the Inferno Tempest banish build is done up on its initial build, it is a going second deck because you want your opponent to build their board first, and then you can Kaiju or Lava Golem and break their board and then set up for the Inferno Tempest play. But if your opponent sets you up to go first and you get this card in your opening hand, it's a great card to stop their turn. If you banish your entire extra deck, all 15, they have to lose all 15 of their cards as well, unless they have a way to stop it, like Artifact Lancia or anything along those lines. So they can normal summon their monster and try to set up a play. You activate Banquet of Millions, all their extra deck is gone, and they're stuck. And they might put down a few back row, but then their lone monster is prone to getting hit with a Grand Maju, or you can Kaiju it if you have the tools for the Inferno Tempest play. Highly underrated. I'm surprised more decks don't use it, especially decks that don't use the extra deck that often, you know, such as, you know, True Draco and Monarchs and Subterrors. Personally, I think it would be a great card for those decks, especially if you want to shut your opponent down on turn one. Another card I switch back and forth out of my extra deck as well, especially if you're going against combo decks, Summon Limit. Basically, neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. Negated summons count toward this turn. Negate card effects that would summon do not count. Summon Limit is a great card, especially if you're going against those super heavy combo decks. Really, in this Inferno Tempest build, you only need to summon twice, at the most. Summon 1 Kaiju, normal summon 1 0 attacker, slam into the 3000 Kaiju for the Inferno Tempest play. So it's a great Floodgate card, great stun card, and it constantly sees play in my side deck for this deck as well. In case you're dealing with some really degenerate boards that you can't get around, you can always look into getting Dark Ruler No More. So, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls until the end of that turn. Also, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. Neither player can activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. So, it's the same thing. You know, it's a great card if you allow your opponent to go first and they build up a really great negate board that you don't really have many outs to. You don't have Kaijus available, you don't have your Lava Golems available, you might have an evenly matched in hand, but you can't activate it because they have an Omni Negate that can stop it. Dark Ruler No More, great card. Even though I don't really see it played as often as what it used to, but it's still a great side deck option if you do have them available. A card that has been seeing a lot of play in the last couple of formats is Nibiru. Pretty much, if your opponent summons more than 5 times, drop a rock on them. And especially, it's a good card, especially if you're playing a deck with a lot of low attack monsters, because the token that they get, or the rock that they get, could have 3,000 attack or 3,000 defense. And that could be exactly the monster you need, you know, for your Inferno Tempest play. Nibiru's seen a lot more play now, and it's a great side deck card, and you can also put it in your main deck as well. So I would highly giving this one a try if it works out for you. I get the feeling in this format we're going to be dealing with a lot of back row, especially with skill drain to 3, so you can't go wrong with your typical back row destruction Cosmic Cyclone. Pay 1,000 life points and select 1 spell trap on the field, banish it. So the thing is if they activate their skill drain, or if they have any really degenerate back row cards, Cosmic Cyclone's a great card. And as well, I get the feeling we're going to be dealing with a lot of heavy back row decks. So if you're playing against a lot of heavy trap-based decks, one card you're going to have to worry about is the Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which prevents its back row from being destroyed. However, even if they show that card face up in their hand, it doesn't prevent their back row from being banished. So that's why Cosmic Cyclone could be a much better card than, you know, Lightning Storm or, you know, Harpy's Feather Duster. So if you got access to it, I would certainly take advantage of it. One card I'm sure everybody puts into a side deck because it's going to be incredibly useful, and that is the good old token collector. The Sword Soul Killer. And not only that, it's going to be the Adventurer token killer, because that's a brand new archetype a lot of people are playing as well. So I would try to get access to token collectors. They've only had 3 prints. They've had a rare version in Soul Fusion, common in one of the Mega Tins, and the ultra rare promo from Soul Fusion as well. And they're starting to go up in price. The token collectors are going anywhere from $10 or above. Get access to them. It stops Sword Soul in their tracks, and it's a great card. And the fact that it can be special summoned is a 0 attacker. So if they try to do any of their token plays, it can also work against Mecha Beast or Aurodon, and then they have a monster on the field that they can't really do anything with, so that's a free target for a Kaiju. 0 attacker, you get your Inferno Tempest play as long as you get Inferno Tempest in hand. I think one deck we are going to be seeing a lot of, especially with skill drain to 3, is Eldritch. And I think we're going to see a lot of Eldritch in this format, because Eldritch is still at full power. I think Eldlixir, Scarlet Sanguine is still to 3, and I think Cursed Eldlin is still at 3. So even though this may not be a great idea, but it's actually helped me out quite a lot. But one card I think you should consider siding is Super Poly. Because if you're going to be going up against Eldritch, you have a perfect Super Poly target, and that's the Eldritch, the Mad Golden Lord. It's surprisingly easy to get that Super Poly target now, because I think it's a gold rare in the Maximum Gold Eldorado, and it's just Eldritch needs their trap monsters, and they need Eldritch, and if they get both on the field, Super Poly it, and they can't negate it, and you get a 3,800 attacker, which is quite an incredibly powerful monster, and even if they have skill drain, that could give you the extra bit of damage that you actually need to win the game. And I think Super Poly is going to be a very important card once the branded structure decks come out, because like I said, all their high powerful monsters are either dark or they're fusion. So if you have a chance to stock up on Super Polys, I would certainly do it. And the last card that I want to talk about, in the main Inferno Tempest Banish deck, I use Droll. I think it's the most important hand trap in the format right now. It's incredibly useful. It can also stop your opponent dead in their tracks as long as they don't have a Call by the Grave or Crossout Designator or anything along those lines. So a great side deck card to combine with Droll to really screw your opponent over is Trickstar Reincarnation. Especially if they bring a useful card to the hand, just activate this and they have to banish their entire hand and draw the same number of cards. And better yet, if you have a Droll in hand and they don't have an Ash in hand, if they add a card to the hand and you chain Trickstar Reincarnation with Droll, they have to banish their entire hand and they can't draw. And they're pretty much dead in the water. That play has won me quite a few games, and it's a great side deck card. Because, like I said, there's a lot of one-card combo starters, and if they get the card that they need, just activate Trickstar Reincarnation. If you're lucky enough to have a Droll, then you get rid of their entire hand, as long as they don't have an Ash to stop the Trickstar Reincarnation. And one final card that I do want to talk about, guys, that's in the main deck, but I think this card is going to be incredibly important in this format. And if you do have a chance to get access to it, please get them, because I get the feeling that we're going to be dealing with a lot of back row hate. There's going to be a lot of degenerate back row decks, especially with Eldritch and the new Dino Waifu deck and Paleo Toads and everything else. And I can't stress the importance of this enough, guys. Like, I think this card is important. There's like kind of like a goal. I'm the only one stupid enough to actually play it in my main deck, and I get made fun of it all the time. Even when I play this deck online, they say, "You play this card in your main deck? Why?" I think in this format, this card is going to be very important in the main deck, especially if you're dealing with heavy back row decks, and that is evenly matched. If skill drain is going to be a problem with a lot of other traps, I cannot stress the importance of this card. I think it's just one of the best, like, clear the field cards ever. And if we are going to see a lot of back row style decks in which they're going to try to protect their back row with Lord of the Heavenly Prison, best thing about evenly matched doesn't destroy. It banishes, so Lord of the Heavenly Prison will not work out. So if you have access to get evenly matches, it will be great, because even if you allow your opponent to go first and they build up a pretty degenerate board, maybe you don't have access to the Inferno Tempest play, but you do have access to the evenly matched play. And you might have a Lava Golem and an evenly match, get rid of the Omni Negates with the Lava Golem or the Kaiju, and just evenly match their entire board. And they'll probably have a hard time recovering from it. So I stress the importance, try to get access to evenly matches, because I think it's really going to be a useful card in this format. So anyway, guys, those are some options for the Banish deck side deck. You can take any of these cards and actually add them to the Inferno Tempest build that my wife built for me. We'll provide a link for it in the description of this video if you want to check the video out. Make whatever changes you want to it as you feel comfortable with, and try to make it the best deck it can be. So anyway, guys, this is Just a Regular Guy, husband of the Dragon Lady, with some tips on cards to add or remove from the Banish deck to make it the best Inferno Banish deck you can, and I certainly hope you can wreak some havoc against the metagame. So anyway, take care, and as the Dragon Lady often says, play the game, not the fame. All the best.
Hey husband, you forgot there can only be one.